Good Shabbat, everyone. So we are in the midst of the period of the counting of the Omer, which helps us tie the Passover or holy days with the reminder of our getting out of Egypt, our getting out of oppression, and ties that to the holiday of Shavuot, on which we forged our covenant with God, enabling us to move forward with clarity and purpose toward our promised land. The mitzvah actually came from today's reading, the last Aliyah. We read, Usvartem lachem mimacharat haShabbat, miyom haviachem et omer hatnufa sheva Shabbatot temimot tiyena. From the day on which you bring the sheaf of elevation offering, the day after the Sabbath, you shall count off 7 weeks. They must be complete. Now, counting is one of those things that we humans do, and we teach our children how to count. We play hide and seek and then have them count to 10 while we hide. As adults, we watch spaceships take off and follow the countdown. And counting votes precisely, whether on The Voice or American Idol, I don't want to take sides at that very political in a synagogue, is so important. Much hangs on accuracy and timeliness. I doubt that any of the other animals know about counting. Thank you, scientist. Okay, but counting is part of what makes us human. So I mentioned The Voice in American Idol, and let us talk about the counting in another contest. The Eurovision final was this past week. If you are not familiar with Eurovision, it's an international song competition organized annually by the European Broadcasting Union. Each participating country submits an original song to be performed live and transmitted to national broadcasters via the Eurovision and Euro radio networks, with competing countries then casting votes for the other country's songs to determine a winner. It is put on by all of the European public broadcasters, including some countries that are not actually part of Europe, like Australia and like Israel. It is huge in Europe, and it is a matter of national pride to have your country's song submitted and to hopefully go to the semifinals. It has also become an LGBTQ plus iconic event internationally. I'm not sure exactly why. Israel has actually won it 4 times. In 1978, with Abani B, written by Nurit Hirsch and Ehud Manor, 2 of the great songwriters. You know Nurit Hirsch from Oseh Shalom Bimromav, right? That's hers. And you know other songs of hers, but that one for sure. In 1979, the very following year, Israel won with Hallelujah, written by Kobi Oshrat and Shimrit Or. Hallelujah, Ha'olam, right? You all have heard that song as well. They won in 1998 with the song Diva, written by the great Zvika Peak. Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, right? So Zvika Peak and Yoav Ginai wrote Diva. It was performed by the great Israeli trans performer whose name goes by the professional name of Dana International. And then in 2018, Israel won with the song Toy by Jerome Medali, Stav Berger, and Jack White. This year's song, Hurricane, was written by Avi Ohayon, Karen Pellis, and Stav Berger once again. It reflected the national Israeli mood. It was a somber ballad sung by an incredibly young talent, Aidan Golan. Even though Eurovision rules, the lyricists were barred from making very overt references to any geopolitical events, like October 7th, in which case the lyrics had to be changed for submission to Eurovision. Inside the venue, the hecklers booed Eden Golan throughout her entire performance. Outside the venue, in Malmo, thousands rallied against Israel's inclusion. They argued that just as Russia was excluded as punishment for its aggression against Ukraine, so too should Israel be excluded. Of course, the analogy doesn't actually hold up because Israel was the victim of aggression on October 7th, not the perpetrator. So Israel is like Ukraine and unlike Russia. So actually, not only does the analogy fall, it falls miserably. It's the opposite. But that didn't stop Malmo, with its 20% Muslim Middle Eastern population, from turning out in force to protest a 20-year-old Israeli woman singing a beautiful song. But that's not what I want to get to. Let's get to the scoring. Eurovision actually has two parts in its scoring system. Each country has a small jury that awards points, and then each country has an open voting in which all residents can vote, with points obviously going to the top vote getters. And there was an initial round. I think there were 44 entries this year. 25 or so make it into the made it into the semifinals. What happened persistently, and I've put it on the back of the handout if you want to see for yourself, is that in country after country after country, the popular vote gave Israel more points, sometimes far more points than the juries. Now, the singing contest, while songs can be sometimes a matter of taste, some people like ballads, some people like faster songs, some people like waltzes, some people like different genres. All of that is very, very true. But certainly, people generally know if the song is a catchy melody or really a dud. Those things people generally can get, right? People can generally be touched or not touched by a song. People generally know if a performer really has a good voice or really doesn't, right? There are certain things that while you can have some differentiation, it's not going to be this different. It might be this different, this different, this different, this different, but generally you're not going to have that. So on the table, I highlighted Israel's scores in green. As you can see, the juries, if you go to the middle column where it says rank, the jury's average rank of 25 people was to rank Israel 12th. From the public of all the countries, from the millions and millions and millions of votes, the average rank was second. Second, 12th. In fact, numerous countries, 12 of them, gave Israel the highest possible score of 12 points. And in numerous countries, almost all of those that gave Israel 12, the national juries gave Israel 0. Those include Australia, Switzerland, Spain, Greece, the United Kingdom, and Italy, just to name a few. There is no way that 2 ears in this case, millions and millions of ears, and the public can give Israel the highest vote count, it's the best song in the competition or deserves to be among the two best in the competition, and the national juries say this is the worst song in the competition out of 25. That is simply not possible if people are voting merely on performance and composition. In all, Israel ended up at the end of the day in 5th place, with the fantastic public scoring being weighed down by the mediocre at best jury scores. Or to frame it from the opposite viewpoint, Israel received mediocre scores from the jury, but was raised to a considerably much higher place overall because of the extremely high public scores from the millions and millions and millions of voters who voted. You expect the ratio of difference between a jury score and a public score be roughly 1 to 1, 1.2 to 1, 1.5 to 1. In this case, it was 6.2 to 1. That is an unheard of, out of whack for any country, not only this year, but in any year in the history of scoring, as far as people who have gone back to analyze. It has never been that out of whack. And it cannot be merely because of Ed and Golan's performance or because of Stav Berger and Jack White's composition. So by now you might be saying to me, well, Rabbi, it's just a music competition. Does it really matter anyway? Well, it actually matters, actually in a good way, because it hints at, although it does not prove, it hints at a moral majority, even across Europe, sometimes known by us and the world for its anti-Semitism, that actually most people support Israel, that understands Israel's fight, and who remembers who the good guys are here, who were the attackers and who were the victims on October 7th. And let's delve, whereas the juries are public figures worried about their image if they are known to have supported Israel, the public, cloaked in anonymity, gets to say what it really believes and vote the way it wants, because nobody will know who those voters were. But everyone knows who's on those juries. It reminds me of another very recent story, far less covered, a world away from Eurovision, in Hanover, New Hampshire. The Dartmouth student government considered a vote of no confidence in the university president, Sean Balak, who is Jewish and is known far and wide as a fantastic leader. Before taking the position at Dartmouth, she was president of Barnard College very successfully. The reason for the vote of no confidence in her was because she dealt with anti-Israel protesters on campus, asking local police to intervene when they were violent. Some 90 persons were arrested, and that led to a very surprise, unexpected public vote of no confidence by the student government. According to the school newspaper, student government members were unexpectedly pressed into taking the surprise no confidence vote during a public meeting, and the vote passed 13-2, expressing the students' lack of confidence in Balak's leadership. And then, surprisingly, the student government president, Jessica Chiriboga, not Jewish, vetoed the resolution because several senators expressed interest in deliberating the issue further. So President Chiriboga moved the meeting into closed session. In other words, had a private vote, a private discussion, free from intimidating eyes and free from intimidating cameras and cell phones and social media accounts. And you know what? There was another vote in private, a vote of no confidence against the president, and it failed. President Obama's chief political strategist, David Axelrod, used to say that there's a reason why Senator John F. Kennedy's book, Profiles in Courage, was such a slim volume. Most people do not present themselves as a profile in courage. Many public figures actually reveal themselves publicly to be profiles in cowardice. The student officials at Dartmouth did not cover themselves in glory by yielding to public pressure and voting a vote of no confidence against the president, who is doing her job and doing it correctly, merely because of the anti-Semitism that was encouraged. But they revealed their true preferences in that second anonymous vote. And that hints that minds are less inclined to radicalism than they seem, once safely out of sight of their censorious peers. The case of these two votes, the one at Eurovision and the one at Dartmouth, tell us several things. People will say and do things publicly that they actually do not believe to be true or warranted, particularly when they feel their jobs and their lives might be at stake. Many people have been jumping on the anti-Israel bandwagon. It's become very popular. But we must realize from these two data points that it's not because they are necessarily anti-Israel. It may be because they do not wish to be doxxed, or worse. To dox, for those of you unfamiliar, is to search for and to publish private and identifying information about a particular individual on the internet, typically with malicious intent. And what happens is, once that's done, oftentimes the radicals go and attack that person or their children or whatever. It's happened over and over again, actually. Our verse prescribing the Omer teaches us that the weeks we count should be Shabbatot Tamimot, which means, or is translated complete weeks, but the Hebrew also can mean unimpaired weeks. The biblical meaning of unimpaired actually means, in an ethical context, that the counting should be done in an ethically sound manner by people who have been living ethically sound lives. The people of Israel as an entity have tried to promote and live out a way of life that is HaYam Tamimim, that forges a moral path that is unimpaired by others' tauntings and news reports. We have remained true to ourselves and our Torah and our ethics. It is clear that other people aren't always living up to theirs. The Omer period tries to remind us of our origin story, when we became a covenantal community in the pristine environment of the wilderness, where the air was clear and our future bright and our vision forward. So reminded, we are invited to sharpen our moral vision, to redial into our own ethical compass, and to continue to live lives of kindness, love, and mitzvot. And when we do this, we do not merely count each day, we make each day count. Ken Yehi Ratzon, so may it be. Shabbat Shalom.